That beautiful page is not what it seems. Is it a holy book or a hidden message? For centuries, the most stunning medieval manuscripts have whispered secrets in plain sight. Concealed within their illuminated letters and ornate borders lie codes, ciphers, and cryptic messages waiting to be understood. By the end of this journey, you will learn how to see beyond the beautiful surface and into the secret world these books protect. We will travel from the silent scriptoria of Ireland to the glittering courts of France, following the trail of these enigmatic writings. What profound truths did monks risk everything to hide? Why would a saint need a secret cipher? The answers rewrite history. What is the most compelling secret you believe could be hidden in an ancient text? These books were not printed but built by hand, one page at a time. Each medieval manuscript is a unique object, crafted in the centuries before the printing press revolutionized the world. Picture a scribe in a quiet monastery, his hand guided by candlelight as he carefully copies text onto a page made not of paper but of animal skin. The most luxurious pages were made from vellum, a fine parchment prepared from the skin of calves. More common manuscripts used parchment from sheep or goat. This was a precious and durable surface intended to last for ages. The process was incredibly slow and required immense skill. A single book could take months or even years to complete. First, the scribe would copy the text letter by perfect letter. Then, the illuminator would step in, adding breathtaking art with pigments made from crushed minerals, precious stones, and even plants. Gold leaf was applied to shimmer in the candlelight, making the pages seem to hold their own divine light. On the surface, these were books of prayer, of philosophy, of law, and of literature. They served as the primary vessels for knowledge and faith in a world without mass communication. But that beautiful, holy surface is often a mask. The very artists and scribes who created these masterpieces of devotion were also the perfect agents for concealment. Who would suspect a secret message hidden within a glorious letter G, or a coded complaint woven into the vinework of a border? The breathtaking beauty of the page was the ultimate distraction, a brilliant sleight of hand that directed the eye away from the secrets lying in plain sight. But why hide a message inside a book at all? Why risk the painstaking work of a manuscript with a dangerous secret? The reasons are as varied as the books themselves, and they reveal a world where speaking your mind could carry a terrible cost. For some, it was a matter of life and death. Heretical beliefs that challenged the official doctrines of the Church could lead to excommunication, imprisonment, or worse. Encoding these ideas was a way to preserve knowledge deemed too dangerous for the open page, sharing it only with those trusted enough to understand the code. Other secrets were practical and powerful. Alchemical recipes for transforming metals or creating medicines were immense sources of potential wealth and influence. A coded manuscript could act as a safe, locking away formulas from rivals or authorities who might confiscate such power. Then there was the quiet rebellion of political dissent. In the courts of kings and emperors, voicing criticism openly was an invitation for disaster. A clever cipher woven into the decoration of a book allowed a scribe or noble to record their true thoughts about a tyrant, creating a hidden historical record that could outlast the ruler himself. And sometimes the motive was pure intellectual play. Scholars and monks enjoyed the mental puzzle, embedding witty poems, personal jokes, or complex riddles for their own amusement and to challenge their peers. This was not just about hiding, it was about creating a private world of thought within a public object. In an age without the freedom to say anything you wanted, the coded page became a sanctuary for the most dangerous thing of all, an independent mind. This need for secrecy gave rise to a brilliant art form known as steganography, the craft of hiding a message inside another perfectly ordinary message. Think of it not as a locked box, but as a letter that appears to discuss the weather, while its true meaning is revealed only when you know to read every second word. Medieval scribes were masters of this visual deception. Their primary tool was the manuscript itself, a canvas filled with endless possibilities for concealment. One of the most common tricks involved the use of invisible inks. A scribe could write a secret message between the lines of a holy text using something as simple as lemon juice or milk. To any casual observer, the page was blank except for the official script, but when warmed gently by a candle flame, the organic compounds in the juice or milk would darken, causing the hidden words to materialize like a ghost from the page. The most daring secrets were often woven directly into the artwork. An illuminator painting a lavish border of vines and flowers could shape the stems to form letters, spelling out a subversive phrase for anyone patient enough to trace the path. The grand, decorated initial letter that began a chapter could contain a tiny, detailed scene of protest or satire, hidden in plain sight amidst its glorious swirls of color and gold. There are surviving prayer books that, when held up to a bright light, reveal an entirely different political tract written in a minute hand between the lines of prayer. The holy words are still there, but they share their vellum with a dangerous critique of a king or a pope. This was the ultimate double life for a manuscript, serving as a public symbol of piety while privately guarding a much more dangerous truth. How many of these beautiful books resting quietly in museum cases today are still keeping their centuries-old secrets simply because no one has thought to hold them up to the light? Among these disguised books, one stands apart as the ultimate locked room mystery, a volume that has defied every attempt to open it for over a century. This is the Voynich Manuscript, discovered quite by accident in the year 1912 by a rare book dealer named Wilfrid Voynich. He found it tucked away in a chest in a Jesuit college in Italy, a forgotten relic with a force of mystery that has captivated and frustrated the world's greatest minds ever since. The book itself is a paradox. It is written entirely in a script that does not match any known alphabet, a flowing hand of strange, elegant characters that form words in a language that simply cannot be identified. The illustrations only deepen the mystery. Its pages are filled with bizarre, unidentifiable plants, their roots and leaves unlike any species found on Earth. There are intricate diagrams of celestial bodies in unknown constellations, and perhaps most strangely, countless drawings of plump, nude women bathing in or connected by a complex network of green, flowing tubes. For decades, the finest military codebreakers from both world wars, renowned linguists, and brilliant historians have applied every tool at their disposal to this single book. They have subjected it to statistical analysis, searching for the patterns that underpin all human language. They have tried every known historical cipher. They have even employed powerful modern computers, yet the manuscript yields nothing. Each promising lead has evaporated. Every supposed solution has crumbled under scrutiny. The text remains stubbornly unreadable, its message perfectly preserved behind an unbreakable seal. Is it an elaborate hoax, a nonsensical book created to deceive a wealthy patron? Or does it genuinely contain a profound secret, a lost language, or a revolutionary scientific understanding from a forgotten time? The Voynich Manuscript offers no answers, only the silent, tantalizing challenge of its pages. It is the holy grail of cryptographic mysteries, a siren call to puzzle solvers, reminding us that some secrets are woven so tightly they may never be undone. That unbreakable code has not stopped us from trying to understand its purpose. A century of intense study has produced several compelling theories, each one a key that almost fits the lock. One prominent idea suggests the Voynich Manuscript is nothing more than an elaborate and beautiful fraud. Proponents of this theory point to the era itself, a time when wealthy nobles were eager to pay vast sums for mysterious curiosities. Could a clever forger have created a nonsensical book filled with strange plants and an invented alphabet, selling it as a priceless secret to a gullible collector? The statistical patterns in the text, which mirror the complexity of real languages, make this difficult to prove. A simple hoax would likely collapse under such analysis, yet the Voynich's patterns hold firm. Another school of thought argues the book is a genuine scientific text, its code designed to protect precious knowledge. The many illustrations of plants could point to a coded herbal, a book of medicinal recipes where the true identities of the herbs are concealed to protect the healer's trade secrets. Some researchers claim to have matched a handful of the manuscript's strange botanicals to real-world species, like the common sunflower or a type of New World pepper, hinting that the artist may have been working from vague descriptions of plants they had never seen. This theory leads to another tantalizing possibility. Could the Voynich be a relic from a lost culture, its language and knowledge entirely wiped out by time or conquest? The unfamiliar constellations and bizarre anatomy would then be a glimpse into a completely different way of seeing the world, a system of thought that vanished without a trace, leaving this single, indecipherable volume as its only monument. Perhaps the most fascinating theory is that the manuscript represents an early attempt to create a perfect universal language, free from the ambiguities of Latin or Greek. The text structure shows a rigidity and repetition that some linguists argue is consistent with a constructed grammar. Its author may have been a philosophical pioneer, dreaming of a new way to communicate human knowledge. Yet for every theory, a contradiction arises. The statistical properties of the text suggest a real language lies beneath, but its word structure is unlike any other known to us. The plants resemble real species just enough to feel familiar, but never enough for a positive identification. This is the heart of the Voynich enigma. It constantly offers a glimmer of recognition, a promise that the answer is just within reach before dissolving back into absolute mystery. It is a puzzle that plays with our minds, making us see patterns that might be meaning, or might simply be the beautiful, maddening echo of our own desire to understand. Centuries after those silent scribes laid down their pens, a strange book appeared that seemed to capture their very spirit. Published in 1981 by Italian artist Luigi Serafini, the Codex Seraphinianus is a modern creation that feels like it was pulled directly from a medieval scriptorium and sent through a dream. It presents itself as an encyclopedia, but one describing an utterly alien world. Its pages are filled with breathtaking, full-color illustrations of impossible things, a fish with a key for a body, plants that grow into chairs, and lovers slowly melting into a single shared form. Every diagram and chart is labeled in a flowing, handwritten script that uses an alphabet no one has ever seen, an undeciphered language that is entirely its own. This is not a medieval text, yet it functions exactly like one. It uses overwhelming, surreal beauty as both an invitation and a barrier, daring you to understand its logic while refusing to provide a key. The Codex is a perfect mirror to the Voynich Manuscript, proving that the compulsion to encode the world is not a relic of the past but a timeless human drive. It shows us that the desire to create a complete, secret universe within the pages of a book never truly vanished. It simply found new artists. Why would someone spend years crafting such an elaborate and ultimately unreadable object? The answer lies in the same impulse that guided a medieval monk hiding a political complaint in a prayer book. It is about creating a private reality, a system of knowledge that operates by its own rules, safe from the straightforward interpretation of the outside world. Luigi Serafini himself has hinted that the writing is a form of asemic art, meant to evoke the feeling of reading without conveying any fixed meaning, much like a child pretending to understand a grown-up book. This connects directly back to the playful, intellectual riddles woven into medieval margins. The Codex Seraphinianus is a bridge. It demonstrates that the heart of these mysteries is not just the code itself, but the profound human need to make something beautiful, complex, and utterly personal. A world contained between two covers that challenges anyone who opens it to see differently. Long before any royal court employed a spy master, the true masters of secrecy were working by candlelight in silent monasteries. These monastic scribes, the dedicated men who copied sacred texts, became the Western world's first true cryptographers. Their unique position made them perfect for the role. They were among the few people in society who were fully literate, skilled in the complex art of writing and the nuanced use of language. More importantly, they lived in a world set apart, enclosed within the walls of their abbeys, which provided both the privacy to develop codes and the pressing need to use them. Even a life of devotion had its private thoughts and quiet rebellions. The very act of copying a holy book, a task meant to be purely devotional, became the perfect cover for subversive activity. Imagine a monk, hour after hour, meticulously forming the letters of a psalter. His work is an act of faith, but his mind is his own. He might grow frustrated with his abbot's harsh new rules, or he might wish to record a particularly effective recipe for the monastery's famous beer, a formula that was a closely guarded source of pride and income. Voicing these thoughts aloud could mean punishment or demotion, but the page in front of him offered a solution. He could encode a personal complaint within the ornate border of a capital letter, shaping a vine into the shape of a frowning face only his trusted friend would recognize. He could take the first letter of every 10th word in a long, boring passage of theological commentary and string them together to spell out the secret ingredients for that prized ale. To any inspecting eye, the page was a masterpiece of pious artistry, but to a fellow monk in on the secret, it was a private letter, a safe for a recipe or a record of descent. These men turned their supreme skill with a pen into a tool for creating a hidden layer of communication, proving that even in the most disciplined and holy of places, the human need for a private voice will always find a way to speak. One of the most elegant and widespread codes relied not on invisible ink, but on the simple order of letters. This was the acrostic, a form of wordplay where the first letter of each line in a poem or a section of text, when read downward, spells out a hidden word or name. It was a code hiding in the very architecture of the writing. Imagine a monk composing a beautiful hymn to the Virgin Mary. To any reader, the verses are a flawless expression of devotion. But for the monk, the poem holds a second, more personal purpose. By carefully choosing the first word of each new line, he ensures that those initial letters, read in sequence, spell out his own name, a permanent but discreet signature woven into his work. This was his way of saying, "I was here, I made this." Another scribe might use the same technique to encode a secret dedication to a beloved patron, or to spell out a short, powerful word like faith or truth, embedding the core of his message within the message itself. The sheer brilliance of the acrostic was its accessibility. You did not need complex ciphers or special inks, only a literate mind and a clever pen. This made it incredibly popular, a way for anyone from a humble scribe to a powerful noble to leave a personal mark, a ghost in the machine of the text. The hidden word was a whisper meant for those who knew how to listen, a second layer of meaning resting quietly between the lines, waiting centuries for a reader with a careful eye to trace the letters downward and hear it speak. Even a saint needed a secret language. In the 8th century, a missionary named Boniface, later known as the Apostle to the Germans, ventured into deeply pagan lands to spread his faith. His work was perilous, surrounded by political intrigue and potential betrayal. A single intercepted letter detailing his plans or his candid opinions of local chieftains could mean his death. To protect his communications, Boniface turned to a clever and simple tool, a substitution cipher. His system was elegant in its directness. He replaced every vowel in the Latin alphabet with the number that corresponded to its position in the word. For example, the letter A, the first vowel, became the number 1. E became 2, I became 3, and so on. Consonants were left unchanged. A word like praise would be written as PR1S2. To an untrained eye, the resulting text looked like a messy, confusing jumble of letters and numbers. perhaps a scribe's accounting notes or a rough draft filled with errors. But to a trusted colleague who knew the key, it was a perfectly clear and confidential message. This was not a code for intellectual games, it was a practical shield for survival. Boniface used this cipher in his personal correspondence to discuss sensitive matters, from the logistics of his missions to his frank assessments of the political dangers he faced. His secret writing allowed him to build alliances and report back to his superiors in Rome without his enemies understanding his plans. Here was one of the most important religious figures of his age, a man who would become a saint, relying on a hidden code to safely navigate a world where every word carried weight and every mistake could be fatal. His simple cipher reminds us that the drive to encode messages is rooted in the most human of needs, the need to protect oneself and one's community when the truth is too dangerous to speak aloud. A saint's simple cipher reveals a world where numbers were far more than just quantities. For medieval thinkers, numbers pulsed with a divine energy, a hidden architecture built into the very fabric of creation. This belief, known as numerology, held that mathematical patterns were the language of God, and that by deciphering them, one could read the secret messages woven into scripture and nature. If the universe was a book written by the divine, then numbers were its most sacred alphabet. This fascination found a profound expression in the ancient Jewish mystical tradition of gematria. This system assigned a specific numerical value to each letter of the Hebrew alphabet. Since words are made of letters, every word also possessed a unique numerical sum, its gematria value. The belief was that words sharing the same numerical value were mystically connected, revealing a hidden relationship that the plain text kept secret. It was a code based on cosmic mathematics. For example, take one of the most important words in the Hebrew Bible, the word for life, chai. Its letters, chet and yud, add up to the number 18. Because of this, the number 18 is considered incredibly auspicious in Jewish tradition. A charitable donation is often given in multiples of 18, symbolically granting life. This is a simple, beautiful connection, but gematria could be used to draw much deeper and more complex theological lines. A scholar might analyze the name of a prophet and find its numerical value match the value of a key phrase from a different book of the Bible altogether. This hidden numerical link would be seen as proof of a divine plan, a preordained connection between the prophet and that specific event or idea, a secret signature from the author of the universe. The page was no longer just a surface for words. It was a grid of invisible numbers, and every sentence a mathematical equation waiting to be solved. What other profound connections might lie hidden, not in the ink, but in the silent numbers behind the letters? While one manuscript remained silent in Italy, another began to speak in a bewildering chorus of tongues. The Rohonc Codex emerged in 19th century Hungary, a battered volume wrapped in its own impenetrable fog. Its pages are filled with a script unlike any other, a bizarre alphabet of nearly 200 unique symbols, many resembling a mad fusion of ancient runes and invented musical notation. The illustrations only deepen the confusion, creating a spiritual collage that seems to defy history itself. On a single page, you might find the crucifixion of Jesus Christ alongside Ottoman crescent moons and what appear to be pagan sun symbols, all coexisting in a chaotic but deliberate harmony. This strange fusion of faiths makes the Codex impossible to place. It is a book without a clear home, a message without a known author. One prominent theory suggests it is a religious text created by Hungarian Protestants, a coded Bible designed to protect their faith during a time of brutal persecution. The mix of symbols could have been a deliberate smokescreen, allowing the book to appear as a nonsensical curiosity to authorities while holding sacred meaning for its owners. Another compelling idea argues it is a chronicle from Transylvania, a secret history of the Romanian people written in a lost dialect and a homemade cipher to evade the eyes of their rulers. Each theory offers a key, but none fully unlocks the door. The very richness of its visual language becomes its greatest barrier. With nearly 200 symbols, the script is too complex for a simple substitution cipher where one shape equals one letter. Yet statistical analysis suggests it is not a complex language either. The pattern of symbols falls into a frustrating middle ground, mimicking the structure of a real text while resisting every logical approach to decoding. Modern supercomputers have run countless algorithms against its pages, searching for the linguistic fingerprints that identify every known human language from Hungarian to Sanskrit. So far, the Codex has given up nothing. It stands as the Voynich Manuscript's European cousin, a book that whispers of wars, faith, and forgotten kingdoms, but in a voice we have not yet learned to hear. The silence of the Rohonc Codex stands in stark contrast to a different book, one whose secrets finally spoke after 250 years. The Copiale Cipher is an 18th century German manuscript bound in brilliant gold and green marbled paper. Its 105 pages are filled with a baffling mix of unreadable abstract symbols and perfectly clear Roman letters, a combination that seemed deliberately designed to confuse anyone who tried to crack it. For generations, it defied every expert, an elegant and utterly silent object. Then, in the year 2011, an international team of computer scientists and linguists applied a revolutionary new approach. They treated the code not as a single puzzle, but as two separate layers working in tandem. Their breakthrough was realizing that the Roman letters were not part of the message at all. They were nulls, meaningless characters inserted to distract and mislead the reader. The true information was contained entirely within the strange, abstract symbols. Once they tested this theory, the hidden world of the manuscript opened up instantly. The Copiale Cipher was not a treasury of alchemical secrets or a lost language. It was the detailed rulebook and initiation ritual for an obscure German secret society. Its pages described everything from the order of ceremonies to the precise handshakes and oaths required for membership. This was a direct descendant of the medieval tradition, a code used not by a monk in a scriptorium, but by a clandestine brotherhood protecting its private activities from the prying eyes of the state and the church. Groups like the Freemasons, whose own origins trace back to the closed world of medieval stonemason guilds, relied on these exact kinds of ciphers to safeguard their knowledge and ensure their survival. The Copiale Cipher proves that the medieval desire to encode a private reality did not end with the arrival of the printing press. It simply evolved, moving from the monastery to the secret lodge, continuing a tradition of concealment that stretches across the centuries. These secret sciences thrived on the language of concealment. Alchemy and astrology were not just studies, they were dangerous pursuits where a single misunderstood phrase could lead to accusations of heresy or sorcery. To protect their art, practitioners wrapped their deepest knowledge in layers of symbols and coded terms, creating a veil of mystery that only the initiated could pierce. The alchemist's greatest quest was for the philosopher's stone, a legendary substance said to turn base metals into gold and grant eternal life, but you would never find a straightforward recipe for it. The entire transformative process was described as a series of cryptic stages, each represented by a vivid symbol. A common image was the Ouroboros, the serpent eating its own tail. This was not just a picture, it was a complex code representing the cyclical nature of the alchemical work, the concept of one thing containing its own beginning and end, and the eternal process of death and rebirth required for transformation. The materials themselves were never called by their common names. Lead might be referred to as the Black Crow or silver as the Queen. A text might describe the need to unite the Red King with the White Queen in a mystical marriage, a poetic cipher for a precise chemical reaction. This was partly to protect valuable trade secrets, but it was also a vital shield. By writing about creating gold in a language only fellow alchemists could understand, they could avoid the fatal charge of counterfeiting currency from a nervous king. Astrological manuscripts employed a similar cunning. On the surface, a complex star chart was a scientific document mapping the heavens, but for the astrologer in the pay of a powerful noble, those celestial patterns could conceal a dangerous prediction. The chart might openly discuss the influence of planets on agriculture, while secretly encoding a forecast about the king's failing health or the looming threat of a plague. The position of Mars, the god of war, in a specific house could be a veiled warning of an imminent rebellion, a message clear to the patron who commissioned the work but invisible to any official censor. These manuscripts were double agents, presenting a public face of scholarship while privately trafficking in the most volatile information of the age, all protected by a silent, symbolic language written in the stars. That silent language of symbols found its most urgent use in the shadow of the Crusaders' sword. In the sun-drenched hills of southern France, a gentle and devout Christian sect known as the Cathars lived by a faith the Church declared a mortal heresy. They believed in two fundamental forces, a good God who created the spiritual world and an evil God who had fashioned the corrupt material world, including the human body itself. This dualist belief made them reject the Church's authority, its sacraments, and its wealth, posing a direct threat to its power. The response was swift and merciless. Pope Innocent III launched the Albigensian Crusade, a 20-year war of extermination that drowned the region in blood, culminating in the horrific siege of Montségur, where hundreds of Cathars were burned alive for refusing to renounce their faith. In the brutal aftermath, to be openly Cathar was to invite execution. Their churches were destroyed, their priests massacred, and their sacred texts burned. Yet their beliefs did not vanish entirely. They went underground, and the written word became their last, best sanctuary. Survivors of the persecution faced an impossible choice. How do you preserve a faith that has been outlawed when every book you own is grounds for death? Their solution was a masterpiece of clandestine resistance. They began to encode their dualist beliefs within the pages of seemingly orthodox Catholic books. A beautifully illuminated Book of Hours, filled with standard prayers to the Virgin Mary, might contain a tiny, almost invisible symbol in its margin, a specific arrangement of flowers or a unique pattern in a knotwork border that identified the owner as a secret believer. To any inquisitor, the book was a testament to piety. To another Cathar, it was a signal of solidarity, a silent handshake in a world of spies. Some scholars argue that certain surviving manuscripts from the region contain subtle textual alterations. A passage condemning the flesh might be copied with an extra emphasis that aligns perfectly with Cathar teachings on the evil of the material world, a coded reinforcement of their core belief hidden within the enemy's own scripture. These manuscripts became silent witnesses, their beautiful pages acting as a shield for a suppressed spirituality. They were no longer just books, they were secret meeting places, their vellum pages the only safe ground left for a faith that dared not speak its name. How many of these coded testaments still sit on library shelves, their quiet messages of resilience waiting for a reader who knows what to look for? Even the air in a cathedral could carry a hidden message. Beyond the silent vellum pages, composers discovered they could weave secrets directly into the music itself, using the very notes sung by the choir as a sophisticated cipher. This practice, known as musical cryptography, turned sacred masses and motets into personalized cryptograms, resonating through the vaulted ceilings for those with ears to decipher them. One of the most elegant techniques was called seghetto cavato, which translates to carved subject. Imagine a composer wishing to honor a powerful patron, or perhaps commemorate a beloved individual within the fabric of a holy mass. He would take a name or a short phrase, such as Gui du Artino, and first isolate its vowels. In this case, the vowels are U, I, O, A, E, I, O. Next, he would map these vowels to the solfege syllables of the musical scale, a system where each note has a sung syllable. In the Guidonian system, named after the 11th century music theorist Guido of Arezzo, the vowels aligned with specific notes. U becomes ut, which we now call do. I becomes my, O becomes sol, A becomes la, E becomes re. Following this map, the name Gui du Artino would yield the melodic sequence my, sol, la, re, my, sol. This sequence of notes then becomes the core theme, the cantus firmus, around which the entire polyphonic mass is constructed. The choir sings glorious, complex Latin verses praising God, but the foundational melody repeating through the texture is secretly spelling out a human name. A duke or a bishop hearing his own name woven into the divine service would understand the composer's subtle and brilliant tribute, a permanent encryption in melody. This was the ultimate fusion of art and code, where a piece of music could openly worship heaven while quietly flattering earth, its deepest meaning audible only to the initiated. How many other names and dedications are still hidden in plain hearing, waiting in the old sheet music for a musician to connect the vowels to the notes once more? A saint's coded hymns and a secret society's musical ciphers would soon be overshadowed by a legend of unimaginable wealth. When King Philip IV of France moved to destroy the Knights Templar in the year 1307, he set in motion a mystery that has captivated treasure hunters for centuries. The Templars were not just warriors, they were international bankers and landowners of immense power, and their sudden, brutal dissolution left a glaring question. What happened to their legendary treasure, their vast coffers of gold, their relics, and the secret knowledge they were rumored to have gathered from the Holy Land simply vanished from official records? This void became a canvas for the most enduring of legends. Speculation immediately began that the surviving Templars, forewarned of the king's betrayal, had smuggled their wealth to safety, leaving behind encoded charts and cryptic manuscripts that detailed the location of their hidden hoards. These were not simple treasure maps. The legends suggest these documents held far more volatile secrets, perhaps proof of heretical beliefs the order was accused of, such as the worship of a mysterious head known as Baphomet, or even evidence of a forbidden bloodline. The idea was irresistible, a perfect storm of historical conspiracy, lost riches and forbidden knowledge, all protected by an unbreakable code. This legend has proven incredibly resilient, fueling a modern obsession with finding Templar symbols hidden in plain sight. From the intricate carvings on Scottish chapels to the peculiar alignments of standing stones in rural France, enthusiasts pore over medieval architecture as if it were a giant cryptogram. They search for geometric patterns, unusual iconography, and celestial alignments that might point the way to a secret vault. This is the ultimate expression of the coded manuscript, but on a monumental scale. The entire landscape becomes the page, and every weathered stone a potential letter in a lost alphabet of treasure. The true treasure of the Templars may not be gold, but the enduring power of a secret itself, a mystery written not on vellum, but into the very stones of history, compelling us to keep looking. Sometimes the most baffling codes are written not in letters, but in pictures. In the early 14th century, a wealthy English landowner named Sir Geoffrey Luttrell commissioned a magnificent psalter, a book of psalms for his private devotions. On the surface, its text is perfectly standard, a beautiful copy of sacred songs, but open to any page, and your eye is immediately drawn away from the holy words and into the margins, which erupt into a chaotic carnival of the bizarre. Here in ink and vibrant color is a world turned upside down. A knight in full armor rides backwards on a horse. A man plays a violin while a monkey dances on his head. Fierce, scatological battles are fought between peasants wielding farming tools. Most startling of all are the hybrid monsters, creatures stitched together from the nightmares of the artist, with the bodies of rabbits and the heads of birds, or humans whose limbs twist into serpentine vines. This is the Luttrell Psalter, and its margins are a playground of the inexplicable. What could these images possibly mean, living right beside the solemn words of the Psalms? One compelling theory suggests this is a form of visual social commentary. Sir Geoffrey was a lord of the manor, and these illustrations could be a sly, coded critique of the social order he presided over. The peasants shown fighting or acting foolishly might be a satirical depiction of the lower classes, a way for the nobility to laugh at those beneath them. Yet, some of these scenes show a surprising sympathy and meticulous detail of rural life, almost as if the artist was quietly celebrating the very people who worked the land, embedding a record of their existence within a book meant for their Lord's prayers. Another idea points to the sheer psychological reality of the scribe's work. The task of copying the Psalms line after line was one of immense repetition and tedium. Could these wild drawings simply be the outpouring of a bored, creative mind? The margins became a pressure valve, a space for the artist to doodle his fantasies, his frustrations, and his humor, creating a personal diary in pictures that has outlasted the names of kings. Perhaps the most intriguing theory views these grotesque figures as a form of spiritual protection. In the medieval worldview, the blank spaces on a page were vulnerable, empty territories where evil spirits might settle and defile the holy text. By filling every available inch with vibrant, often frightening imagery, the illuminator was creating a guardian army of the strange and monstrous. These bizarre creatures were not invaders, they were protectors, their very weirdness a shield against the malevolent unseen. The Luttrell Psalter reminds us that a code does not need a cipher key to be profound. Its secret language is one of imagery and intention, a silent conversation between the artist, his world, and the sacred text he was embellishing. The message is not written in words, but in the defiant, chaotic, and beautiful struggle of life, spilling out from the edges of the divine. The wealth of Mansa Musa was so vast it destabilized entire economies. As the 10th Mansa, or emperor, of the Mali Empire in the 14th century, his legendary pilgrimage to Mecca flooded the markets of Cairo and Medina with so much gold that its value plummeted for over a decade. But his true legacy was not carried in his caravan's coffers. It was housed in the scholarly heart of his empire, the city of Timbuktu. While European monasteries prized a few dozen volumes, Timbuktu became home to hundreds of thousands of manuscripts, a center of learning that attracted the finest minds from across Africa and the Middle East. Its libraries were filled with profound works on astronomy, advanced mathematics, intricate law, and sophisticated medicine, knowledge that was the equal of any in the world at that time. And within this immense ocean of open scholarship, the same impulse for concealment must have thrived. Consider the political reality of ruling the largest empire on earth. Mansa Musa's control over trade routes and his relationships with neighboring states were sources of immense power and potential vulnerability. It is almost unthinkable that sensitive diplomatic correspondence or strategic records would have been written in plain text for any scribe or messenger to read. The same cryptographic drive that protected a European monk's recipe or a saint's letter would have been essential here, perhaps encoded within the complex Arabic calligraphy of a legal treatise or hidden in the marginal annotations of an astronomical chart. The survival of these libraries through centuries of change, conflict, and even modern-day threats is a testament to their perceived value. Families have guarded these manuscript collections for generations, often at great personal risk, preserving not just knowledge but the very possibility of secrets. What might a carefully unrolled scroll reveal if we knew how to read it? Could a text on herbal medicine conceal a map to a long-lost gold mine, its location encrypted using a numerical cipher based on the stars? The silent, sun-baked libraries of Timbuktu expand our story across continents, proving that the desire to protect precious and dangerous knowledge through codes was not a European invention, but a universal human response to power, faith, and the fragile nature of truth. The quiet scratch of the monk's pen was about to be drowned out by the rhythmic clatter of the printing press. In the middle of the 15th century, Johannes Gutenberg's invention did not simply make books faster to produce, it fundamentally rewrote the rules of secrecy. For centuries, a coded manuscript was a singular artifact, its secret locked away in one unique handcrafted object. Now, a single text could be replicated hundreds of times, spreading ideas and information far and wide. This new accessibility was a double-edged sword. While it democratized knowledge, it also made the truly secret message more vulnerable to exposure. A cipher hidden in one of 1,000 identical printed books was no longer safe in its solitude. It could be compared, analyzed, and broken by anyone with a copy. This new reality forced a fascinating evolution in the art of concealment. If a code could no longer hide in the uniqueness of an object, it had to become more sophisticated, more deeply embedded in the text itself. The age of the personal, handwritten cryptogram was giving way to the era of state-sponsored cryptography. Early printed books began to feature ciphers not for private devotion but for power. Manuals on cryptography were published, teaching diplomats and merchants how to protect their correspondence. We see this shift clearly in the first printed books on the subject, like the Polygraphia of Johannes Trithemius, an abbot who paradoxically used the new technology of print to publish a vast work on secret writing. His book was a bridge, its knowledge now mass-produced, but its purpose was to equip a new class of people with the tools for clandestine communication. The printed page became a training ground for spies. Yet, in this new world of copies, the old, handwritten coded manuscript acquired a new and even greater power. A unique book created by a single hand became the ultimate vessel for a secret. Its very singularity was its strongest defense. While 1,000 printed volumes could be scanned for a pattern, a single manuscript with its personal quirks and bespoke encryption could guard its mystery forever. The value of these one-of-a-kind objects skyrocketed, not just for their beauty, but for their unparalleled ability to keep a confidence. The printing press did not kill the secret code, it simply forced it to evolve, pushing it from the quiet scriptorium into the bustling, dangerous world of international politics and early modern espionage. That rhythmic clatter of the printing press has evolved into the silent hum of supercomputers. The ancient battle between hiding and finding has entered a new arena where artificial intelligence and advanced imaging technologies are now the primary tools for unraveling mysteries locked in vellum for centuries. This is not a replacement for human curiosity, but a powerful new lens through which to examine these age-old puzzles. One of the most dramatic applications is multispectral imaging, a process that captures light far beyond the range of the human eye. A manuscript is photographed under different wavelengths of light, from ultraviolet to infrared. This technique can peer through time itself, revealing text that was scraped away by a medieval scribe. These recycled pages, known as palimpsests, were common when vellum was scarce. A scribe would take an old book, wash or scrape off the ink, and write a new text on the clean surface. For generations, the original writing was considered lost. Now, multispectral imaging can detect the faint chemical ghost of the original iron gall ink embedded in the skin, or the trace of carbon from an erased drawing. The computer then processes these layers, digitally lifting the older text from beneath the new, like separating two voices in a conversation recorded centuries apart. Lost works of Archimedes and unknown Greek poems have been resurrected from prayer books in this way, their first life revealed after being hidden for 1,000 years. This technology also makes visible messages written in invisible organic inks, causing them to fluoresce and appear as if by magic on a modern screen. The very pages we thought we could read are now confessing their deepest secrets. Alongside this new way of seeing is a new way of thinking, powered by artificial intelligence. Researchers have fed the entire text of the Voynich Manuscript into sophisticated machine learning algorithms, training them to analyze its structural patterns. The AI does not understand the words, but it can identify the mathematical fingerprints of language, the rhythm and repetition that underpin all human communication. In the case of the Voynich, these analyses have both deepened the mystery and offered tantalizing clues. The AI has confirmed that the manuscript's patterns are consistent with a natural, structured language, making the hoax theory less likely. It has even tentatively identified the possible language of origin, with some models suggesting a distorted form of early Hebrew or another Near Eastern tongue. Yet, a perfect translation remains elusive, as if the AI can hear the music of the language but cannot yet understand its lyrics. Beyond the Voynich, other projects are using artificial intelligence to scan thousands of digitized medieval manuscripts at once, searching for recurring symbols or artistic motifs that might indicate a shared, hidden code across different books and libraries. The AI acts as a tireless research assistant, spotting connections no human could ever find by manually poring over millions of pages. It is sifting through the entire written record of an era, looking for the whisper of a pattern. The modern codebreaker no longer needs just a cipher key. They need a dataset and a neural network. This technological arms race ensures the conversation between the codemakers and the codebreakers is more vibrant and active today than it has been for hundreds of years. The silent books are finally getting a chance to speak, and we are only just beginning to learn how to listen. But alongside these genuine secrets lies the dark art of the forger, a world where mystery is manufactured to deceive. One of the most consequential lies in history was written on a single sheet of parchment, a document known as the Donation of Constantine. Crafted sometime in the 8th century, it purported to be a legal decree from the Roman Emperor Constantine the Great, written 300 years earlier. In this eloquent forgery, the emperor, grateful to Pope Sylvester I for miraculously curing him of leprosy, supposedly granted the Pope and his successors dominion over all of Rome and the entire Western Empire. For centuries, this document was the ultimate weapon in the papal arsenal, cited as irrefutable proof that the emperor's own political authority had been willingly handed over to the church. It was a masterstroke of propaganda, written in a convincing Latin style and sealed with what appeared to be ancient imperial authority. Popes used it to command kings and shape the map of Europe, their temporal power resting on this single, expertly crafted lie. Its authenticity went largely unchallenged for over 600 years, until the Renaissance scholar Lorenzo Valla applied the new tools of linguistic and historical analysis in the 15th century. He dissected its language, pointing out anachronistic words and phrases that would not have existed in Constantine's 4th century Latin. He dismantled its historical claims, revealing the timeline of events was impossible. The Donation was a brilliant fake, a manuscript that had altered the course of European politics for the better part of a millennium. Its power was not in any hidden code, but in the audacity of its creators and the willingness of the world to believe it. This was not a secret meant to protect, but a lie designed to dominate. The same human skill that could encode a saint's private letter could just as easily forge an emperor's will. This cynical tradition found a modern echo in the 1980s with the scandal of the Hitler diaries. The German news magazine Stern proudly announced it had acquired 62 volumes of the Führer's personal diaries, a historical discovery of unimaginable magnitude. They paid millions for the books, which were filled with mundane daily entries and sealed with what experts initially verified as authentic Nazi wax. The world held its breath until forensic testing quickly revealed the truth. The paper contained a modern whitening agent that did not exist in the 1940s. The binding threads were made of polyester, the ink was fresh. The diaries were a clumsy, greedy fraud, exposed in a matter of weeks by basic scientific scrutiny. Unlike the Donation of Constantine, which was a work of profound political genius, the Hitler diaries were a crude imitation, a reminder that the desire to believe in an earth-shattering discovery can sometimes blind us to the obvious. These forgeries, from the sublime to the ridiculous, force a crucial question. How do we tell the difference between a profound mystery and an elaborate con? The answer lies not in wonder, but in evidence, a lesson written in the ink of both faith and folly. A hidden message rarely announces itself with a shout. It prefers the quiet disguise of the ordinary. If you ever find yourself before a medieval manuscript, whether the real thing in a museum case or a detailed facsimile, you can train your eye to see past the beauty and spot the potential secrets. The first clue is an obsession with patterns. Look for a symbol, a specific flower, or a tiny animal that appears again and again in the borders or within the large capital letters. This repetition is often a deliberate signature or a coded signal, not just a decorative whim. Next, pay close attention to the relationship between the text and the images. Does the illustration seem to tell a completely different story from the words on the page? A serene prayer surrounded by a border of battling monsters or jesters pulling faces might be a visual commentary, a secret critique hidden in plain sight. The margins themselves are a treasure trove of clues. Don't ignore the seemingly random sketches or notes, the doodles we call marginalia. A strange face, a geometric diagram, or a cluster of seemingly nonsensical letters could be a personal note from the scribe, a reminder of a recipe, or even the key to a larger cipher. Watch for sudden shifts in the script itself. A change in the color of ink, a different handwriting style, or a section of text that looks rushed or cramped might indicate where a later hand added a hidden message, perhaps using the original work as a shield for their own thoughts. Finally, examine the physical page. Hold it up to the light if you are allowed. Faint impressions or ghostly writing beneath the primary text could reveal a palimpsest, a recycled page holding a lost world beneath the new one. These are the silent whispers from the past, waiting for a curious eye to notice them. You do not need to be a professional historian to start this search. You only need a patient gaze and the willingness to question every beautiful detail, to wonder if that intricate vine is just a vine, or if it is spelling out a name, a protest, or a prayer that was too dangerous to write any other way. That quiet monk, shaping a cipher to protect his private thoughts, was laying the foundation for our digital world. The principles these medieval minds explored, the very idea of hiding information in plain sight, have become the bedrock of modern life. Every time you send a private message, log into your bank account, or make an online purchase, you are relying on a direct descendant of their ancient art. The simple substitution cipher used by Saint Boniface to safeguard his mission has evolved into the complex algorithms that scramble our data into unreadable code, protecting it as it travels across the globe. These are not just historical curiosities, they are the prototypes for the systems that now guard our identities, our finances, and our most intimate conversations. The medieval understanding that information is power, and that power must be protected, was remarkably sophisticated. They grasped the core concepts of cryptography, a subject we now teach in computer science departments. They worked with keys where only someone with the correct knowledge could unlock the message. They experimented with steganography, hiding a message's very existence within another medium, much like how modern digital watermarking conceals data within an image file. Their playful acrostics, where the first letters of lines spelled a secret word, are a primitive form of the structured data passing that our machines use to process information today. These scribes and scholars were the original cryptographers, pioneering a field that would one day become essential to national security and personal privacy. We live in an age of information just as they did, and the same human need for a secure space to think, to communicate, and to transact continues to drive innovation. The next time you see a medieval manuscript, remember that its true legacy is not just in the beautiful words you can read, but in the powerful idea it represents, the enduring need to protect a secret, an idea that now silently secures our entire modern world. From the silent scriptorium to the king's court, these coded manuscripts reveal a history written in whispers. we have journeyed through a shadowy world, from the baffling, unreadable pages of the Voynich Manuscript to the practical ciphers that kept a saint like Boniface safe from his enemies. We have seen secrets woven into the very music of cathedrals and hidden in the grotesque margins of a prayer book. Each code, whether a simple acrostic or a complex symbolic language, tells a second story. This is a hidden history of dissent against tyranny, of belief persevering through persecution, and of pure intellectual curiosity flourishing in the most disciplined of spaces. These books are more than relics, they are testaments to the unbreakable human spirit, to the timeless need to have a private thought in a very public world. Every ancient book you see in a museum has a magnificent story written on its surface, in its gold leaf and vibrant pigments. But remember this, the most fascinating tales, the most dangerous truths, and the most personal prayers are often the ones that were never meant to be read. They are the stories hidden just beneath, waiting for a patient eye to finally see them. Which of these mysteries captures your imagination the most? Share your thoughts in the comments and subscribe to join us on our next journey into the forgotten corners of the past.